Hello, and welcome to the Blue Shadow Podcast. My name is Joey.
I am Dan.
And today we're going to talk about Season 3, Episode 12 of The Bad Batch. And we are also going to talk about our favorite MCU character designs. And we'll talk about the motivation for why we want to talk about that today when we get there. But we do want to start out by doing our usual, what have we been watching, reading, playing? Dan, what have you been up to?
We are about halfway through West Wing. Just started season 4, 7 seasons, gonna power through it. Just finished season 3, and if you know, you know.
I don't know.
You don't know, and that's okay.
It's totally fine.
And I've been playing Marvel Snap. Some of my cards and your cards just got, I do believe the word is nerfed into oblivion.
Yeah, we have a particular set of cards that we like, specifically Zabu and Eliath, that were key to a very central deck that we both like to play, like a lockdown kind of deck.
However,
into the ground.
We are better than playing one deck, and we will overcome this.
Persevere.
Yeah, it hurts, but it gives me time to play Destroy.
Forgive but never forget.
Yeah. How about you? What have you been up to?
For me, it's the same stuff I've been talking about forever. We're about halfway done with the X-Men the Animated Series. Nice. Really looking forward to starting 97. I'm getting some serious FOMO.
Don't get FOMO. You can watch it all at one time.
It's true, but binging, I don't love binging, but it's okay. So we're watching that, and again, I think I might be, I said to Dan today, I'm getting close to maybe almost beating Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So it's a hefty game. So I'm enjoying it a lot, but I am looking forward to talking about that on the air. Probably just me, since you don't know what is going on there. But
my extent of the Final Fantasy knowledge is I play Cloud in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate,
and that's better than nothing.
Yeah, and I change his outfit though. I use the like the brown mock turtle neck. I don't think it's game accurate, but
I'm more a fan of the black sort of situation.
I always go, when I play, I go one outfit to the left.
Okay. I can picture it in my mind right now.
I'm sure.
I'm more of a vanilla skin kind of person. I'm boring like that.
That's okay.
Anyway, let's transition now into talking about Season 3, Episode 12 of The Bad Batch. This episode was called Juggernaut. We usually try to talk about what the name of the episode means. Mm-hmm. This one's pretty straightforward, I think, but we can also...
I think so.
You can apply some deeper meaning.
We can be very direct, which we will, and when we get to that point of the episode, we can just talk about the direct meaning of it.
Oh, go ahead now.
No? Okay. At one point in this episode, there are... Oh, I forget the name of the tank. I'm drawing a blank on it.
Juggernaut tanks?
No, Wrecker named it.
It has a name. Bear with us.
Anyway, the tank is incredibly armored. It's a roller tank.
HCV WA9 turbo tank.
Turbo tank, that's it. Thank you. Gave me some Mandalorian vibes.
Yeah. This episode did have a very Mandalorian, specifically the episode where they were on Navarro and they were going to find like that secret Moff Gideon lab. Mm-hmm. It reminded me a lot of that episode. And it also reminded me a little bit of Solo as well.
Yeah.
The heist kind of... We'll talk about that when we get there. It
reminded me of the episode of Mandalorian with Bill Burr.
That one too, yeah.
I thought it was the same place. I know it's not, but I'm like, wow, that's very similar. Anyway, so this episode begins with... It really picks up right where it left off. It opens up with CX2 and Omega arriving back on Tantus. And Hemlock and Emery Carr meet them at the door.
I before we talk more about what exactly happens there, I was really surprised that we saw Omega at all this episode. They've been kind of doing this thing where they either show you Tantus or you don't see it at all. So I was happy that this episode was kind of like bookended with different Omega scenes.
I think Omega is the central figure of the Bad Batch, and I think we can get away without seeing the rest of the Bad Batch without an episode, but I think the people would be up in arms if we don't see Omega for a week.
I'd be up in arms. I want to know what's going on.
Exactly.
They get there. Omega gets delivered to Hemlock, and he kind of takes them on a little special walk to the lab and delivers Omega to Emery Carr.
Mm-hmm.
And Emery Carr says something kind of interesting. She says, "I'm glad you're safe." And Omega says, "Is she? Like, am I?"
Yeah.
What did you think about that interaction?
It's an interesting interaction because I see it from both sides. I truly believe that they're not going to kill Omega. She's too important to them.
Not yet, anyway.
Well, let's see where we go.
Yeah. They have been pretty direct about what they need.
And how she, so far, has been the only person who can do it.
But yeah, I guess there's still some secrecy into what exactly they need. We don't. We kind of know.
We think we know.
But you never know. They might throw us off the trail. But Omega asked about Nala Se and everything, and it just is. It's really like highlighting how it was a dire place to begin with, and it's gotten worse since she's last been there, which is like, highlighting just how miserable it is there.
Mm-hmm. And I think, while that happens, it then pans back to the Bad Batch on Pabu, and they find each other. Crosshair and Wrecker reunite with Batcher and Hunter, and they're in their secure room. And go ahead.
Are you surprised the Empire was leaving?
No,
because I'm a little surprised they didn't try to kill everyone. But
what are they going to do? There's no ships.
It's true.
They can't. Nobody can leave the island, or the planet for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
Or I should reverse that. Nobody can leave the planet or the island.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Anyway, they were leaving,
and we meet our good friend Fee.
Always exciting to see Fee, and this is our only little Tech Watch episode, a portion of the episode. I feel like
he was mentioned one time.
I almost cried.
Old brown eyes.
Yeah, I know, it was a lot.
Now it's old green eyes. If you're in that camp, I'm not.
You are. You were last week. You were converted.
That's a strong word.
You were converted.
Anyway,
no, I loved the interactions between Crosshair and Fee as well. Mm-hmm. It was exciting to see those two characters interact and see Crosshair kind of make his rounds with the characters that the Bad Batch has previously interacted with. I really enjoyed seeing that. And their little witty, a lot of Crosshair witty banter this week, which I really love.
It's very sassy.
I know, I like it.
But in that conversation, Crosshair kind of speaks up and says, "I may know of a way to get back to Tantus." Mm-hmm. And Wrecker and Hunter are angry with him, and rightfully so. How can you hide this from us? How dare you do that to us? Why? And I feel like Crosshair says a very humanizing statement of, I don't want to go back. I never wanted to think about going back. And
you can see him clutching his hand more than he had the entire season so far.
Yeah.
And I think that highlights the link between, as Omega was saying, and AZ1, it's a mental thing for him rather than a physical ailment. So I thought that the hand grabbing as he was talking about this. But yeah, I thought it was interesting but understandable why he didn't bring this up. Because it isn't the location of Tantus. It's a lead that could potentially lead them to the location of Tantus.
Right.
And I imagine if some reason really came up, he might have provided this, but they didn't really have a reason to go back right now. And I understand why he and Omega wouldn't want to go back there.
Yeah.
But I think this kind of brings up him being... We've talked a lot about Omega moving past naive and being an actual character that is capable of making competent, sound decisions. And I think this is a great example of how Omega's decisions have rippled out to inform the Bad Batch. They were teaching her at first.
Right.
And now the Crosshair specifically is learning from her and confronting his fears.
Mm-hmm. And Crosshair, even speaking more directly to that, in the beginning, when Wrecker goes, "How could you let them take her?" And he's like, "She saved everybody." Mm-hmm. Very superhero-esque of Wrecker, of letting the city burn.
Yeah, I just...
And that kind of... Sorry to interrupt, but that kind of goes back to your point of why didn't the Empire do more? They didn't have to.
There never wants to be reasonable, though.
What?
There never wants to be reasonable.
They are when they're trying to keep people under their thumb.
That's true. They don't want to light the spark of rebellion, if you will.
That's a great phrase.
Uh-huh. Wow. Last Jedi.
Go ahead. I cut you off.
No,
I apologize.
nothing important there.
No, well.
But I honestly don't remember what I was saying, so it can't be that important, right? But yeah, so they ultimately come up with this plan based on Crosshair's knowledge of not where Tantus is, but the person who would be able to help them find it, and it is none other than Admiral Rampart.
Yes.
Which is exciting. I thought we were never going to see him ever again.
Me neither.
And so they end up going to this planet called Erebus, and I'm no expert on this, but I've seen a few things come up on like Twitter and stuff that say that in mythology, I think it's Greek mythology, that word is like it has a few definitions, but it could be defined as like a place that people have to pass through to get to Hades. Mm-hmm. So this almost is literally that, like they have to pass through this to get to Tantus, or
whatever
Star Wars Hades or whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, clearly it's in a good place.
No, and everybody kind of knows that.
Yeah, so they end up getting onto this planet, and you see this kind of prison setup, and we see this turbo tank, and in it is a freshly bearded and scruffy-looking Admiral Rampart.
Yes.
I was a fan of the redesign.
Me too. Needed it.
I do think it may have confused some people as to who he was if they didn't remember, but, it's all good.
Yeah.
And
it also kind of just highlights his fall from grace from the Empire.
Yeah, he's literally doing manual labor with a bunch of prisoners.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even anything he did. He got set up.
Yeah, and I don't know what the word is. He kind of gave off the vibe of a racist. So so he kind of gave off the vibe of a racist and was like, well, I don't even speak your language. And I thought that was very him.
No, it was... He's simplistic in the sense that he is... he's just not a good person, it seems, and very appropriate for the Empire. Mm-hmm. But so yeah, we see him working there, and we ultimately get to the Bad Batch flying in on Fee's ship, because obviously the Marauder is sadly destroyed, which is really unfortunate and still. But Fee's ship was pretty cool. I really liked it.
I agree. It looks like a helicopter. I think helicopters are cool.
Kind of like triangle pointiness was very interesting too. But so yeah, it exits hyperspace, and essentially Fee kind of drops them off, and will be there to pick them up once they're able to get Rampart out. Mm-hmm. What did you think of this plan, that they were concocting?
I think it's the only one they had.
It was.
I mean, what can they do? It's 3 of them and a dog. The dog wasn't even there.
No. Having
to storm a Imperial prison where there's clearly high-value prisoners.
I really liked the fact that this seemed like a old Bad Batch, like a plan the Bad Batch would have followed in season 1 or something.
Yes.
Like this whole season, I feel like they've been so unconfident for strong reasons, especially Hunter. I feel like Hunter really had his time to shine here, where he turned it back on in the spirit of saving Omega, rather than I feel like they were proactive rather than being reactive, which they were a lot of this season, which I really liked. And just drawing that connection to it being a plan that it's against the odds, but we're going to go and we're going to do it,
right,
is very just different than what we see in this season. So I thought that was a nice change of pace.
I agree.
And highlighting that maybe we're on the upswing in terms of their confidence and all of that sort of stuff. So we do some little action, and we end up in this tank.
Yes.
And,
we get introduced to Plan 55.
Yes. Oh my God, it was so cool. I rewound it and watched it 3 times.
And it's interesting because I think it kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier, how it is a mental thing with Crosshair.
Yeah.
I mean, he was able to do that instantaneously.
And it was not that was ricocheting. There was...
And he was calculated
there was skill
around the other prisoners.
I also loved how Crosshair asked Wrecker if he remembered the plan, and he kind of stood there for a few seconds. I was like, is the screen buffering or something? No, Wrecker just had to think about it for a few seconds.
Yeah.
I loved that interaction.
It was a great interaction.
They're really, and I've talked about this before, I really was not a Crosshair fan at all until this season. And they're just really, really making him now one of my favorite characters in Star Wars animation. And the span of... What is this?
Weeks.
11 episodes?
12.
12 episodes?
Episode 12.
I mean, that's speaks to the power of how well planned and just really effective their plan with this was. Mm-hmm. So after we see that cool plan and shots are flying everywhere, Wrecker shoots some people, we see Rampart there, and he addresses Crosshair by his clone name, his clone number. Mm-hmm. I thought that was really interesting because it's like he immediately snaps to like trying to control him, or like back to the old relationship that they had in the first season.
And it's kind of what I was trying to get at earlier. Like he still views himself as an admiral.
Oh yes,
views himself as better than everybody around him.
Mm-hmm. It's very apparent.
Yeah.
Hoity-toity, even in prison.
Yeah.
When you have that beard and flowy hair, you got to be that confident.
Yes, and he is Rampart's no dummy either.
No.
So Rampart kind of knows right off the bat, if they wanted to kill me, they would do it. Mm-hmm. But they didn't, so you must want something from me.
And that's where he comes up with his little plan to give them the information if they get him off the planet.
Yes.
And while we've talked about this before with like untrustworthy characters, like they kind of just had to say, this is the only lead we got, so we're going to have to get him off this planet. And he knows that. And he has this little look on his face when they mention the term Tantus too, where he must know something. Like they're really desperate.
Yeah.
So I think he knows he's got to get off of there. Mm-hmm. But you see, like we cut to this like tower, and we see that they kind of know that they let the other prisoners off, which I thought was nice. And this tower knows that they've stopped, so it's already kind of on high alert, which sets us up for the ensuing really cool action.
Yes.
And this was some classic Bad Batch action.
Mm-hmm. And like you kind of said earlier, it reminded me of The Mandalorian. Mm-hmm. When they were leaving Moff Gideon's base.
Yep.
Or secret lab.
It was a mad rush. Mm-hmm. And I do want to say one little comment about the Bad Batch overall. They might be the least subtle characters in all of Star Wars. Yes. Anywhere they go, things are exploding. People are shooting at them. There's giant monsters coming. They might be the most chaotic set of Star Wars characters in existence. And it's wonderful.
It is.
But the long short of it, I'm not sure how in-depth you want to get into the action, but there's this fight between these two turbo tanks. Mm-hmm. And I just, like, my favorite part is when they, like, shoot the... Hunter says it's not working, shoot the wheels.
Yeah.
And then it jumps over the tank. It was, like, Fast and the Furious.
It was. It was great. And it was... They kind of build up that sense of, well, what's going to happen? What's going to happen?
And that follows through all the way to the end of this segment. So they kind of get off this bridge, past the turbo tank.
And it also foreshadows.
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
It does.
Jumping.
Oh, I was thinking about aiming for the wheels.
Ah, well.
Foreshadowing is very prevalent in Star Wars, as we all know.
Even this episode. But, so they kind of get over there and... They get to the edge of this like cliff, and we see stormtroopers from this gunship jump on to the tank, and they're kind of in the situation that reminded me a lot. This is where it reminded me of a lot of Solo. Like they're in the situation where they're being attacked by the Empire. They're on the top of this tank as it's moving, and they end up getting rid of the stormtroopers, of course, and Fee ends up coming down and helping to save them, and she. Like, the bridge to her ship lowers. You see, I believe, Crosshair go on. Then Hunter goes on. And then Wrecker, as if he was shooting a basketball, throws an asleep Rampart. That was something we didn't really talk about. During that action scene, it shows, again, speaks to Crosshair's ability to perform when he has to. Like, as this action is happening, before we talk about the escape, apologies for that, Rampart starts to reach for this blaster.
Yeah.
And Crosshair shoots it away immediately.
Yeah, right out of his hand.
I loved it. I like almost hooted and hollered when that happened.
Also, Rampart really not that smart. What was that going to accomplish? For as much as we were hyping him up earlier by saying he's not an idiot, he was kind of an idiot.
And he had to have known who was standing there right with him.
Yeah.
Like he knows how good Crosshair is. He doesn't know about the tremor. So in his mind, Crosshair.
Last time he saw Crosshair was
fully functioning Crosshair.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, we got Fee's ship on top of this turbo tank. They're moving towards the edge of a cliff. Crosshair goes on, Hunter goes on, Wrecker throws Rampart, and I had a real sense of, oh no.
Yeah.
Is this it? I legitimately thought there was a chance that Wrecker was going to bite the dust here. Like, I really was...
Yeah, it was...
They've scarred me. Like, my heart started beating. I started getting a little sweaty.
Yeah, that's what happens when clone troopers fall.
You always got to bring it back to tech, don't you? I mean, it is intentional.
Yeah,
but
that was the point.
I think they knew exactly what they were doing.
Oh, yeah.
Because it literally was the last time they wanted to go find the location of Tantus was when we lost Tech.
Yeah.
So we think. Tech Watch. But they did that, and Hunter and Crosshair are actually able to pick Wrecker up and get him on after he jumps. So crisis averted for now. For now.
Something's going to happen. I don't know.
Something's going to happen. I don't know that this is going to be the happiest ending. The timeline suggests it might not be.
Oh, no.
But, so yeah, they get up. They wake Rampart up, which is kind of funny. They're all just like standing there, and they're like, tell me. And Rampart says he doesn't necessarily know where Tantus is. It's designed to be a secret, but he implies that he knows how he can get there.
Yeah.
And that they're in this together. And I was talking to Dan off the air earlier about this today, and I said, he's like a much more lame Agent Callus.
Yes. Really is.
Like, I don't think
they're going to bond with him, though.
Oh, no, and I don't think he's going to bond with them. I think he is going to solely benefit himself.
I think he's going to try and sell them out.
100%.
Sell them out to Tarkin.
It could be his ticket back into the Empire.
Catch these fugitives.
Restore his glory and his honor like he's Prince Zuko.
My honor.
I gotta catch the Avatar. Omega's pretty much the Avatar in this show, if you will.
She really is. I mean, she has the traits of all of Clone Force 99.
We've derailed, haven't we?
No.
It's a little true, though. But yeah, so this is... I think this is kind of setting up maybe what we'll get the next few weeks and into the finale, how we're going to get to Tantus.
I don't know. Could it be... Are we going to just run in from like person to person to person? Or do you, I'll pose it this way. Do you think Rampart's contact knows where Tantus is, or do you think he's one more stepping stone to get to that person?
That's a great question. I feel like Rampart is going to be around for a few episodes. Like either the whole thing or a few episodes. So I think he's either going to get us to a person who knows and continue to help them or maliciously help them. Mm-hmm. Or, like, I think he's going to be around. I think he knows exactly how to get there. I don't know if it's necessarily a person or if it's, like...
Purgle.
Purgle.
That's
I'd lie. Anytime...
Super.
Anytime there's a space whale in Star Wars, I'm a happy camper.
Yes, I understand that one was a little out there.
Listen, I always yell at Dan for his theories.
Might be my most out there theory I've said in a long, long time, yet it was the most well-received, and I'm not okay with that.
Purgles. Space whales. Fantastic. They can be in Star Wars whenever they want.
Okay, so back to our Avatar. I actually think it's a very good segue.
It is a little bit. So we, as I mentioned, we bookend this episode with scenes on Tantus. So Emery Carr finishes her test. Mm-hmm. The yellow light turns on as we expect.
Do you think, before we go there, do you think Emery was hesitant to test her?
100%. You could see the conflict in her eyes.
And like you said, the test turns yellow, and as the test turns yellow, Hemlock walks in.
And it's like, of course, that's right when he walks
hypothetically,
I know where you're going, and I'm going to like this.
Hemlock doesn't walk in. What does Emery do?
I think there's a high chance she could have brushed it under the rug or hit it or something.
You see, and I disagree, and I kind of set it up this way.
Okay, I'll say there's a chance. I don't necessarily know about high.
I think Emery knows that she went to bat the first time for Omega. Mm-hmm. She was the first one who did the initial test.
Yeah.
For her to come back and say, no, it's not her. Makes her look bad as the lead scientist.
And they probably would have just tested her again with a different person.
That, or they could have just killed Omega.
That too.
They don't need her.
I think maybe my hesitancy is like, she's I don't know if she has it yet, but I feel like she wants to come up with a plan to help Omega.
I agree.
And you're right. I don't know that she could have gotten her out of the situation. But we do know, let's kind of move forward. Hemlock comes in, and he gives her the friendly, oh, you're very special, Omega. The villain speech.
Yeah.
And it, I really, Hemlock is a juicy villain. He's very, like, there's a lot going on there.
He's one of these villains who's not outright villainous, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
He's not...
Almost like Thrawn-ish.
Yeah.
But like he's less like maybe the science-y Thrawn rather than the militaristic Thrawn.
He's like the opposite of a James Bond villain.
Uh-huh.
Who's so over the top, and I'm going to go through this elaborate scheme to explain everything. And Hemlock's like, welcome to the show. You're the star.
He's very direct. Much like with Tarkin. He's like, I just need your money.
Yeah.
Here's why I need you. I still think Omega has no means of understanding what the heck he's saying.
No.
But, nevertheless, he kind of we see her walking through, him leading Omega through the scary red laser hallway. I like the detail of it. Like, I don't think we talked about this before. It's a minor detail, but like, as they walk through it, the next laser opens up, and then the previous one closes. It's just a very cool Star Wars hallway. Yeah. And, I wasn't sure what he was going to show her. I thought we might see like a Snoke or something.
I thought we were going to see a Palpatine clone. I really did.
Because they walked through that with Palpatine earlier this season, the red hallway, and you see the Sith cloning chamber looking thing.
Yeah.
I thought it kind of looks like that hallway just leads directly into the white room with the children.
Yeah.
But I think that may just be some, cutting trickery. But anyway, we get to that room, and Omega sees the children, the specimen, if you will.
Well, I thought about that when we were watching it. He was referring to her by name every time.
Mm-hmm.
Also highlighting her importance to him.
Mm-hmm.
That he's not calling her SP.
Yeah.
He calls her by her name.
That is interesting.
Leads me to think that she's here for the long haul, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
That they do have plans, and she's not going to be cast out, which I think could provide some substance to what Emery said earlier of you're safe here.
Uh-huh. And like he the choice of words of this is your home now versus this is where you'll be staying, like it does have a permanence to it in the way that he's talking about
and
it.
Especially because the other children were told they could go home.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that was a tactic to get them to be calm or if they genuinely would release them when they're done.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't think they would, but
I do have, before we kind of bring the episode home and talk about the big ideas, I want to talk about how it's like we see Omega wanting to leave Kamino so bad and like wanting to explore the world. And I think this highlights her growth of like, she wanted to leave that type of environment so bad. The white walls and the lab setting. Amen, Omega. She gets ultimately in a place now where it's like her biggest fear, but she chooses to save the Bad Batch and the people of Pabu to go back there.
Right.
And I don't necessarily know that she knows exactly what is going to happen, but I think she knows whether she can do it herself. I don't think she's banking on the Bad Batch being able to find her.
I don't think so.
But I think she has probably some sort of plan to not necessarily even get out, but like rescue everyone there. And I think she's going to have even more motivation for that now that she's seen these kids.
Right. And they're going to turn to her. And let's not forget what Emery gave Eva last week.
Yeah. The Tuga doll. So it, I really think showing us the cracks in Emery's
hardened clone facade.
Yes. I think it might pay off. And I don't know that it's necessarily going to bode well for her, but it might bode well for Omega and the other characters.
I still want her backstory.
Oh my God, what the heck?
What is it? What is she?
As well with Omega, and I think we are maybe set up to learn more about it in a very Hemlock practically turns to the camera and explains it way of what she is.
Tales of Kamino.
No?
I saw something on, I think it was on Twitter, currently X, they kind of said, well, Star Wars has their next animation franchise for indefinitely. They can do Tales of whatever, and they listed a whole bunch.
It's true. Much like we were rattling off when we talked about it. I mean, it could be. I like I said, I'd love to see more of that more often.
Mm-hmm. And I like the animation style.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the mini story.
And they've gotten so good at doing the Clone Wars style animation. And I do love the Rebels animation. And I think the Star Wars Resistance animation was very cool and interesting. But they got this in a point now where it looks so good in the Bad Batch. That,
I agree.
I think taking advantage of that is good. But do you have anything else to add about the plot before we talk about the big ideas?
Do you think Omega came to terms with she was never going to leave Tantus?
Yes. I think like I said, I think she might have the resolve that she will take any opportunity that she can to get out. But I think she might know that it's unlikely that she would get out. I think she knows that.
Yes. And
I think that's part of the strength and the moving past the childhood Omega and into the young adult Omega.
I agree.
Oh, God. I'm not ready. I'm not ready.
We have how many weeks left?
We've got, again, we've talked about our skepticism about whether episode 15 is the last one because all the other seasons have had 16 and they might try to pull some surprising on us. But we technically have 3 more episodes.
But 2 weeks. It's one, right?
No, it's but we'll talk about what's coming next after we talk about our big ideas.
Okay, big ideas.
Do you have any big ideas? I have 3.
Go. Lead on.
My first one is the idea of processing fear and trauma. I think it's seen through 2 lenses in this episode, Crosshair and Emery. Mm-hmm. And to a certain extent Omega, but I want to bring up the parallels between Crosshair and Emery. Crosshair is, though it's uncomfortable, and you can see it visually, it's making him uncomfortable and almost making his tremors in his hand worse. He is confronting his fear in order to help save Omega, hopefully.
Yes.
Where Emery, she has her fear and her trauma from whatever happened with her, which again, I'd love to get that backstory. And she is not doing anything with it that we can visually see right now.
Right.
And I think that the lesson there is to be more like Crosshair. And we know I haven't brought up Rise of Skywalker yet, so I have to. Luke says the destiny of the Jedi is confronting fear. And, I've jumbled it around a little bit. You get the point.
Yeah.
And they're not Jedi.
Right.
But I think that's a lesson of Star Wars, is confronting fear and how you process your fear and your trauma, move past it, be better than it. This episode was talking a lot about that.
I 100% agree. I kind of... Crosshair and Emery are coming from 2 very different positions. One is this hardened soldier who fought the droids and fought people. One of the few clones who did at the time. Compared to another clone who has been in service their whole life, we think. Maybe. Potentially.
Probably.
I don't know.
She mentioned something about throw me away as you did or something like that. So I feel yeah. I feel like she's probably not been out of this clinical setting.
Yeah. I think, like you said, facing reality too is something that they both had to do in different circumstances from the lens of they're both Empire employees, if so to speak. So I think as the next 3 episodes go on, we're going to see, I think we'll see a convergence of the 2 of them.
Oh, yes. Really looking forward to that. My next big idea was the idea of redemption versus rescue. You might often think of those as the same thing, but I think this is drawing a parallel between Crosshair and Rampart, where Crosshair was rescued by Omega and himself to a certain extent. They both work together. But Crosshair was rescued, but ultimately we see him being redeemed. Where Rampart is rescued, for sure, but I don't think he is redeemed. I don't think he has any desire to be redeemed. And I think it's just, again, highlighting Crosshair's growth, I think, is the point of this one.
I agree. And kind of like what we talked about earlier off the air, how you mentioned the Callus comparison. Same thing. If we compare Callus and Rampart side by side, Callus wanted to be redeemed, whereas Rampart didn't.
And I don't even think, let's say they were to have the personal connection episode that Zeb and Callus had. Let's say for some reason next week it's Rampart and Crosshair fall into a ditch. I still don't think Rampart would really care.
I think Crosshair would sooner kill him.
I agree with you completely. Crosshair's not Zeb.
No.
Crosshair's got somehow less patience than Zeb.
Well, I don't know. Kid's a little younger. Omega, do we think? Ezra? And there's no... Gonki's not a terror.
No.
Much.
I'd love to. We could do an episode on the misdeeds of Chopper. The war criminal. Anyway, that's redemption versus rescue. And the last one I have is the concept of like necessity bolstering confidence. And I talked about how they, all throughout this season, the Bad Batch have felt very unconfident, especially Hunter. Mm-hmm. And I think this is the first time we see Hunter kind of like take the reins and follow the plan and be controlled and be skilled.
Mm-hmm. And be the stereotypical leader that they wrote him to be.
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of the lesson of like everyone's confidence gets shaken at different points for whatever reason. And like showing characters kind of overcome that and get back on the horse, metaphorically.
Not to quote the movie Rocky Balboa, but it's not about how hard you get hit, but it's about how you get up again after getting hit.
Exactly that. So yeah, that's all I have to say about this episode. But we are looking at 3 more weeks, again, currently as listed. We have on April 17th, Into the Breach coming up. On April 24th, Flash Strike. And on May 1st, The Cavalry Has Arrived. Let's leave the other 2 be for now. What do you think about Into the Breach? What do you think we might be seeing?
That's tough.
I don't know what breach means as a noun.
Other than like a
like
hole.
Breach is a verb, is like...
Yeah, I'm sure a breach.
This is now becoming vocabulary time with Blue Shadow.
Oh. The breach is also, could be, depending on your spelling, the part of a cannon behind the bore.
Oh.
So could that be how they infiltrate Tantus?
Yeah, or it's not like maybe they're infiltrating Tantus, maybe they're infiltrating a place to help them infiltrate Tantus.
Station. Maybe they go to the Death Star.
When you said cannon, that's what went to my mind. But
maybe
that'd be kind of wild.
I don't think they're going to the Death Star.
I mean, it is the last season,
and we don't know.
It's
and to think if Rampart does know somebody who knows where Tantus is, they're gonna have to be pretty high up there. I mean, Rampart was an admiral in the Imperial Navy, and he didn't know. Mm-hmm.
So I mean, yeah,
you only go up from there.
I mean, now you got me hoping for the Death Star. You've been throwing out some crazy theories, and I'm here for all of them today somehow.
It's weird. Again, my sane theories get shot down.
They're never sane.
They get burned with fire.
There aren't sane theories.
Yes, there are.
No.
You're the one who's been on a pulpit for the past 12 weeks saying Tech's alive.
And wait till you eat your words.
I'll gladly eat them.
We're going to have to get you a shirt that says Tech is alive. Confuse everyone.
Okay, I'll wear it to work.
Okay.
If you guys didn't know, Joey has a cricket.
I do.
And so, yes, if that happens, please make me the shirt.
Does that mean that if it doesn't happen, I have to wear a shirt that says Tech is dead?
Nah, I'll take the high road.
Okay, I'm good with that, because I think that might be a little pessimistic.
Yeah.
I can imagine a few people giving us some thoroughly entertaining reactions. Anyway, that's, I think, pretty much all we have for the Bad Batch this week. I really liked it a lot, as always. I think this show is really shaping out to be really good. And I'm actually looking forward to rewatching it. With all the context. Because as I said before, I was not excited about this show at all. Mm-hmm. And I've just kind of grown to love these characters. And the first time I watched Rebels and went back, or the first time I watched Rebels after going back, it really informed a lot about, you could see the threads start to come together earlier. And I think it'd be interesting to see that with this show.
One last question on that note. Do we think this was designed to be a 3-season arc? Or did they write this closed?
I feel like they knew... I don't necessarily know about 3 seasons for sure, but I think they knew what they wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I feel like they knew where each character was going to end. I think maybe it's the journey and how long...
Excuse me.
You should see the little look on his face. Anyway... Don't you wish it was a YouTube show now?
Oh, well, that means I'd have to put my makeup on.
Anyway, I think they know where the characters were going to.
The hill.
Tech's alive. Anyway, let's go on to our next topic. This topic is going to be us ranking our top 5 favorite MCU character designs. And this topic came to my heart and mind because if you have been on social media at all this week, at CinemaCon, a leaked Coca-Cola cup showed Hugh Jackman's Wolverine from Deadpool and Wolverine. Finally, Hugh Jackman in his yellow suit with his Wolverine mask on. I have been waiting almost all of my entire life, from childhood to when I looked at my phone and saw that, to see Hugh Jackman with that mask on.
Yeah, it's going to be cool.
Oh my God. I know you're not as attached to Wolverine as I am, but...
I want to tell you guys my theory.
It's a bad theory.
It's a hilarious...
You want to talk about... You were running hot. Are you sure you want to do this?
I need to say it. If we're going to talk about it.
Go ahead.
When this show was first announced and the first leaks came out, this movie, and we saw Hugh Jackman in his yellow Wolverine suit.
I almost cried with that, too.
I turned to Joey and I said, they're going to kill him off in the first 30 seconds. And Deadpool would break the fourth wall and say, you got him, be happy, let's go back to my movie.
Now, you see, he talked about how I hate his more reasonable theories. This is 100% something that they would do. I wholeheartedly agree. Especially, like, to the extent of calling the movie Deadpool and Wolverine only to subvert it. I think you'd have a bunch of people angry on the internet.
I could see them doing Deadpool Wolverine intro, that scene happening, and then the intro coming back up with Wolverine crossed off.
It would be really funny. I'm not going to lie. And you're right. I'd get it. I'd get to see him in it, and it would make me happy.
And it would be... The best part is, it would be perfectly in character.
It would. I mean,
it would... I mean, I'm watching Deadpool 1. I just recently rewatched it. And when he breaks the fourth wall for the first time, he turns to the camera and goes, ladies, your boyfriend probably told you this was going to be a superhero movie. Well, it's not.
I hate how reasonable this theory is.
I know.
But anyway, I am thoroughly excited for the movie. And just to see Hugh Jackman in the yellow Wolverine suit with the mask on, it is a very gratifying feeling for me. I'm really, really excited about the movie. And we will certainly be talking about it when it comes out. Mm-hmm. But like I said, our segment today is going to be ranking our top 5 MCU character designs. And sometimes I know MCU character designs can be a little spicy topic with some people. They don't like it. They think they're over-designed. And sometimes that can be the case. But they largely have done a wonderful job of adapting comic costumes into a relatively real-world situation. Like, I don't know if you've seen the first X-Men movie, right? In their black leather outfits. Like, that was so of the time when the movie came out, where they were not quite all in. Like, their feet were in the pool, but they weren't all in.
It's a Michael Bay movie, isn't it?
Bryan Singer. And Kevin Feige actually was involved in that, which is kind of... He was like...
I thought Michael Bay did it.
No, Bryan Singer did most of the X-Men. And Simon Kinberg was someone who was involved too. But nevertheless, all throughout the Fox X-Men movies, which a lot of them I really love, they've been so shy of giving you the costumes. And the MCU, especially as you move forward into it, has given you the comic costumes in their special style. Mm-hmm. So with that, I want to ask you, Dan, do you have any honorable mentions?
That's tough.
You don't have to.
I will say, honorable mention, WandaVision. The constant changes.
Yeah, no, that's good.
That was...
And, like, the way that it would, like, merge was very impressive. Yes. I really like that. That's a good one. My honorable mention, and the reason I say as an honorable mention and not one of the top 5s is it's Professor X from Multiverse of Madness. Mm-hmm. I feel like I can't give a wheelchair a spot on this list. But seeing 90s animated Professor X style cartoonish yellow wheelchair was fantastic. And to see Patrick Stewart in it, much like I'm talking about Wolverine, yes. It's something I've been wanting to see for a long time, and they just weren't giving it to us. Those are some of the best, well-developed superhero characters in movies, and seeing them the way I want to see them and having it be those actors is just wonderful. I will say, I do want them to recast the X-Men when they start making their own X-Men movies.
Yes. Do you have any... That's never mind.
No, we'll save that. We'll save that for another thing. I would love... We can do that. That would be really interesting. So... Your number 5, Dan.
My number 5 is a little bit basic. And it is Hawkeye in the Ronin outfit.
Oh, that's a good one. I feel like after the first Avengers movie, they did a lot of really good Hawkeye costumes. Mm-hmm. But that one is so cool.
And just the backstory, too.
Oh, I know.
It's a gut punch.
Mm-hmm. And, like, I feel like the gold trim on all of it is so... cool, and it's another one that is translated very well from the comics, and it's a more realistic looking one, but it's so cool. I think that's a great pick.
Yes, thank you.
Anything else to add on that one? No. That'll bring me to my number 5, which is Mysterio from Far From Home.
Oh, I didn't expect that.
So cheesy of a concept. You know what he looks like in the comics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Literally a fishbowl with this like lizard scale kind of looking, or like I don't know, like like pattern. What's the term for like a triangle kind of pattern? Quilted.
Argyle.
Quilted. It's quilted. His like green suit is like quilted. It's really odd. And so for them to take it and take like a technology inspiration rather than like a magic inspiration, or, you know, it's like illusions, but like...
It's like a practical...
Yeah, for them to make it something that does not look insane or silly was really cool. And I also thought Jake Gyllenhaal was really good.
He really was.
As Mysterio.
He was a fantastic villain. A realistic villain.
Yeah, I think all of those Spider-Man movies are very high points for the MCU.
You asked for my honorable mention.
Okay.
It is the Spider-Man suits.
I'm not going to talk about any of them. So
Tom Holland.
What's your favorite one?
Oh, that's tough. I feel like this is on your list.
It's not at all.
Okay. I liked his Inside Out one from.
Really?
I did.
That's cool. I did really like that. My favorite one was from Far From Home, but it was actually the end, the shiny one that he made himself.
Mm-hmm.
I liked a lot of the technological inspired ones, but I'm still used to like Spider-Man just having spandex, and I felt like that was the first time it was like that. And the rumors for his next movie are that he's going to be wearing that for a lot of it, which really excited me.
Nice.
There's also rumors that Daredevil's going to be in it, which
That
really excites me.
Well, I mean, we just got
Yeah, Daredevil's making a big comeback.
Yeah,
but did you do your number 4?
I did not.
Your number 4.
This one I feel like you have my number 3. I'm 95% sure.
Okay.
Number 4 is the Loki TVA spacewalking outfit.
Oh my god, with the tape on the helmet?
I thought it was so good. And every time I saw it, I cracked up.
Oh no, it was fantastic.
It looked like the old diving suit. You know, from like old Scooby-Doo with like the I forget, I'm blanking on his name, but that
guy, yeah.
It looked like him.
Oh my god, yes. No. The way that they used that as a plot device too, with them being in it, and it was so good.
Yes, I chuckle every time I see that. I'll be scrolling and I'll see that suit and I'm like, that's just funny.
It also I love Mobius, and anytime like putting Mobius in an uncomfortable situation, like in that suit, fantastic. That's his Funko Pop for season 2 of Loki is in that suit. I know, it's fantastic. Which brings me to my number 4, which is Mr. Fantastic from the Multiverse of Madness. I love the Fantastic Four. Mm-hmm. I've been wanting to see a cool MCU style Fantastic Four suit, and this is one that I know people have given some hate to because it is over designed, and putting air quotes up.
Yes,
I don't care. I loved seeing like all the different textures and stuff on it, and having John Krasinski in it as a surprise. Whew, it was very nice. I love Pedro Pascal. You know, we're huge Star Wars fans. The Mandalorian's fantastic.
I liked him in Game of Thrones.
Still think Krasinski should have been Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah, I think they played their hand too early.
They did. And I don't think it was super well received for a few different reasons, and that might have been it, but I think Pedro Pascal's going to be great. Yes. I'm not sure what's going on with that, with it like being out of time.
Who is Human Torch?
Joseph Quinn from Stranger Things, Eddie.
Nice.
No, I think that's going to be fantastic.
Do we think Chris
fantastic?
It's a good one. Do we think Chris Evans makes a cameo?
It would be nice.
As what?
As Human Torch. It would be fantastic because, you know, in the old movies he played Human Torch.
That's why I said it.
Yeah, no.
But I mean, do we see him as like Captain America? Just like a random, or even just as a bystander.
I feel like it would be cool if, you know, this whole multiverse thing is truly happening and they're merging all of the Marvel movies together. It would be really fun to see Human Torch interact with another Human Torch or Captain America, with Chris Evans being involved in some capacity.
Yes.
That takes us to your number 3, Dan.
I think you might have this one on your list.
All right.
This, I know, is one of your more favorite characters.
I feel like I know who that you're going to say.
If you think you know who it is, and say it.
Are you going to say Ms. Marvel?
I am going to say Ms. Marvel.
Well, you're going to take the wind out of some of my sails later, but let's...
Then you know what?
Let's hold our talk on Ms. Marvel.
Then I will move to my number 2.
Yeah, we'll talk about Ms. Marvel when I bring her up.
My number 2 is Chris Evans' Infinity War. Captain America.
So my number 3 is Captain America, but in Civil War.
Okay.
They're very similar.
Yes.
The Infinity War Endgame, you know, it's kind of like worn down version of the Civil War suit.
And I don't know if you noticed this, in Infinity War, the cross is the star is ripped off.
Yes. And I think this kind of speaks to us as different people, I guess. I like the brighter version of this. You know, it is the same suit. I'm not sure if you have like the comparison up, but
I do not.
But like you can see, it's the same suit, but it's just like a worn down version of it that he's stripped away. So that's kind of fun that this is on both of our lists. There have been some atrocious Captain America suits.
Which one's the atrocious
The
one?
first Avenger, the first Avengers movie.
With the shield?
What do you mean?
Like
I'm talking about the Avengers movie, Captain America.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Captain America, the first Avenger.
No. I don't mind that one.
I love that one with like the helmet and the shield, like the full length.
Yeah, no, I think it's good.
It's a great one.
I'm gonna pull up. If you are not familiar, feel free to Google Captain America from Avengers 1. Something about it just doesn't work. It's very like smooth and undetailed. And it just, compared to all the other ones...
Looks like spandex.
It looks like spandex. It's not great, but that's okay. We're talking about the ones we love. And I think it's interesting that we both picked that.
Again, but I don't know if you've picked up on it. Joey's a very happy-go-lucky person. And I think I am most times.
You are, but you like to skew, as we say, skew negative.
I do.
I skew positive.
I know, but... I think it's, like you said, interesting. We picked the same suit.
Because we could have picked any Captain America suit. I also really like the Winter Soldier one that's like kind of grayed out.
Yeah.
I really like that one too. But that brings me to my number 2, which is the Scarlet Witch from WandaVision. So kind of a little bit of overlap there. But I'm specifically talking about the
Scarlet
end.
Witch.
Like the actual Wanda suit. Not Multiverse of Madness when she goes crazy and she's got the long sleeve evil outfit that's a little darker. But her actual WandaVision Scarlet Witch suit was so cool. And it's another example of them taking something that's really cheesy from the comics with, like, the headdress.
Oh, and they had that.
Mm-hmm. And they had her in it.
As the Halloween costume.
Yes. And if they just adapted, like, if they just tried to go for that in a simple form, it wouldn't have necessarily came off as good. But I really love that design. Like, I went and got the Lego minifigure of it. Like, they had made the collectible minifigures for WandaVision. I got White Vision and Little Wanda. Mm-hmm. I hope we see those two interact again, but that's a whole other story. But
we still have White Vision.
Technically, we still might have Wanda. She did get crushed by a mountain, but you saw a little red dot. Anyway,
if you think Tech's alive, Wanda's alive.
I don't think characters need to die in media. It can be used effectively. I think it's overused as a tool to make people feel something.
You need to watch Game of Thrones.
I have not yet. But let's now go to my number 1. Okay. I think you can... Dan, who's my number 1?
Miss Marvel.
Miss Marvel. But which Miss Marvel? There are 2 appearances. Which one?
Ooh.
I specifically picked the show one. I really like...
That's what I had in mind.
Okay, good.
So I'm being totally honest.
I really liked Miss Marvel's suit in The Marvels, but it was a little more abstract. I really liked that the suit from the show Ms. Marvel, the Disney Plus show. I really like the details it has. First, it has the mask, which I think is, obviously influential to her, or referencing her comic appearance. But I really like that this has different, they talked about how in that show, how important her culture was to her. And you can see the little details that are in the suit that, reference her culture. And I just really think all of that, coupled with the fact that it has that MCU look, it's everything I would want an MCU comic design, or MCU character design to be. Mm-hmm. Heavily based on the comics, but also adding their own little flair to it.
Yes. Like you said, it carried over so well.
One of my absolute favorite characters, and I don't know if you know this, in the comics, she is now an X-Men.
Yes.
So it really is, I love this character when she was an Inhuman. I'm mad about the Inhumans because they were trying to use them to replace the X-Men when they didn't have the movie rights. But now they took the best parts of their Inhuman initiative and slapped it into the X-Men. What more could you want? It's a great time to be a Marvel fan.
It really is.
But that brings us to your number 1. Unless you have something else to add.
I was going to say, it's a great time to be a Marvel fan. I understand people's feelings right now with how they believe Marvel's in a lull. I disagree.
I do too. A lot.
I will say Quantum Mania wasn't my favorite. But I also enjoyed Love and Thunder. And
I loved Love and Thunder. I think what's happening though is the nature of the multiverse story. I think they know what they're doing. Fully. I mean, people say they don't have. I think they have a plan, but I think the nature of the multiverse story isn't as linear, and the stories aren't as interconnected. But I think we're going to end up in a situation where the stories rapidly become interconnected through whatever the big. I know there's a lot of personal things going on for some of the actors.
Yes,
but I think whatever the conflict is, it'll pull all these different stories together. And then you'll all of a sudden see people be like, Marvel's back. But it never really went anywhere.
It's the same thing with Star Wars.
Yeah, Star Wars is dead until Dave Filoni does something, and Dave Filoni does something, and Star Wars is dead again. And it's
Star Wars is dead until The Mandalorian came out.
Yeah. And Kathleen Kennedy ruined Star Wars, but she also made The Mandalorian.
And Andor.
And, yeah.
Anyway, back to the
your number one MCU character design, Dan.
Iron Man Mark III.
Yeah, I'm happy you picked that one. Because I felt like as they moved forward, they got too smooth. And I know they were doing the whole nanotech thing. But, like, I like the chunkier Iron Man.
Yes.
I'm so happy you picked that.
It's, for the best word, iconic.
It is.
Really. The red, the gold.
And it really redefined the way the character lived in people's minds. Like, I had an Iron Man action figure when I was little, before the MCU, of course.
Yeah.
And it was, the cheesy looking, like, Tin Man kind of guy.
And looked yellow.
Yeah, and that's what I had in my head when I thought of Iron Man. And they have, like, a lot of times when I think of Marvel characters, I go to the comic, like, in my mind first. But when you say Iron Man, I immediately, snap to, like, those early Iron Man suits from the MCU movies.
And that's one of, I feel, just speaking a little bit broader, Robert Downey Jr.
Oh, so good.
He is one of the, I think, he's been in a lot of movies. Robert Downey Jr. just won an Oscar. Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man.
Yeah.
That is it. It is like Daniel Radcliffe and Harry Potter.
Yeah, Mark Hamill is Luke Skywalker.
I don't care what else they're in. That's who he is to me.
And I was actually really excited because he did an interview where he said, like, if they want him and it was powerful enough, he 100% would go back. He said he couldn't say no. It's done so much for him. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a great way to round out the list. Anything else to add?
No, I'm excited to see what we get going forward.
Let's bring it back to Wolverine in the mask. Oh my god. I hope there's some other connection. We've already seen in the trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine Pyro from the X-Men movies. I hope they deliver us some more Fox X-Men actors in comic suits. That would really make
Jennifer Garner playing Elektra again? I don't know in what. I thought she was reprising her role of Elektra.
I'm not sure if that's officially announced or a leak. There's a lot of leaks and stuff, and they're doing a lot of weird stuff.
There's so much going on, so many people, so many moving parts.
And I feel like Deadpool, based on what we've seen in the trailer, could be a good place for these weird, one-off Marvel movies to kind of come back.
Again, I hope I'm wrong with my theory, but I can see it happening, you can too.
It would be thoroughly entertaining, is all I have to say.
Well, and if there's a multiverse, we'll just go to another one.
I do think, though, the direction this is heading is... Are you familiar with the storyline in Secret Wars?
No.
So what happens is they all get... A lot of heroes from different multiverses get pulled into this thing called Battle World. And ultimately it's like which universe will survive. And it ends with it all kind of merging into one. So I feel like the multiverse might go away kind of after this saga. And I think that's how we'll end up with an MCU that has... this new Fantastic Four. Like I said, I hope there's new X-Men, but I think it's how we're going to merge MCU of old and new and move forward with this really strong, they have so much untapped potential with their storytelling for, we haven't seen Galactus, we haven't seen Magneto, we haven't seen all these characters that I think really will, if people think this phase of MCU is a lull, I think the end of it and the next one will really pull people back in. It's
the same thing like we just kind of talked about with Star Wars. The MCU's at a lull until Deadpool. And then Deadpool saved the MCU.
It was MCU's in a rut. Guardians 3 is great. The Marvel sucks. MCU sucks. And again, I love Thor: Love and Thunder. I love the Marvels. I think... I
like Shang-Chi. I like the Eternals.
I still need to see both of those, believe it or not.
You need to watch Shang-Chi.
I know. I need to watch Shang-Chi. I know I need to watch She-Hulk. I'm a little behind.
Shang-Chi before the Eternals. You need to watch She-Hulk for...
I know I need to watch Shang-Chi before I watch She-Hulk.
Yes.
Anyway, we're getting off track here. Anything else to add for today, Dan?
No, I think that's it. I'm excited to see where we go next week in Bad Batch.
Oh yes, I can't wait.
Get your tissues ready.
I don't want it to be done, but I think I'm in the acceptance stage.
I agree.
All right. Well, with that, thank you so much for listening. Feel free to give us a subscribe or a review on your podcast platform of choice, or leave us a comment or subscribe on YouTube. Give us a follow on Twitter at Blue Shadow Pod, or on Instagram at Blue Shadow Podcast. And also check out, like I said, our YouTube page or our Facebook page. With that, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See you next week.